Welcome to this week's episode of the Compliance Digest, presenting topics on all things compliance related. My name is Alex Krenke, and joining me again is MacKenzie Nold, the Account Executive Manager here at Quest CE. So MacKenzie, welcome back.
Thank you.
This week we want to talk about the recent release from FINRA, which talks about and highlights some exam priorities and things they'll be looking at in the coming year, 2014. So these will be important when you're talking about your training program for the year and things you may want to incorporate into the firm element courses that you're going to offer. So just to start us off, MacKenzie, if you could, first topic.
All right. We are very excited to share some of the highlights from this list today. So we're going to kick it off with suitability. Similar to trends in recent years, suitability is going to remain a top concern for FINRA in 2014, especially as it comes to recommendations for your retail investors. So to address this, we recommend that you incorporate specific suitability training examples into the courses that you assign to your rep population throughout your training program if you are working with a vendor. Also, we recommend that you review any of your internal practices so that you can increase the effectiveness of any suitability determinations throughout the entire compliance plan for the year.
The next thing we wanted to focus on was the idea of recidivist brokers, as this was highlighted in the actual article from FINRA. Specifically, what they were looking at is basically the problem children within the industry, so the repeat offenders, and then more specifically, tracking where they end up going from firm to firm. So I know that it can be difficult to track a specific registered rep, and you don't want to necessarily associate that rep to the firm, making it a bad firm. So you want to watch the rep and see where they land. Where we saw this being helpful was looking at case studies and adding these to your 2014 training program. So one of the best and easiest ways to learn is by others' mistakes. So if you're coming upon writing a new course, be sure to include these specific examples as FINRA publishes these on a quarterly basis.
Exactly. The next item that we're going to highlight from FINRA's hot list is conflicts of interest. This is something that rings true for me personally. I've had several clients towards the end of 2013 ask for courses about specific conflicts of interest that they can highlight for their training population. So specifically, the FINRA examiners this year are going to be looking for examples of how you identify, manage, and also how you approach situations where there are conflicts. This isn't going to be just for the rep population, but they want to know your entire plan firm-wide. So from entry-level employees all the way up to senior management. How is senior management involved and prepared to work towards and resolve any conflicts of interest that apply to your line of business?
Which brings up an excellent point. We've been talking about this all throughout last year, and FINRA has been highlighting this certainly as well. And that's the idea that when you're coming up with your curriculum and you're talking about these topics, which are a little bit more basic, it's important to create courses and course types for your different level of reps. So you have your people who are new to the industry. They may need to cover the basics and some of the history behind things like insider trading, things like conflicts of interest. But when you're dealing with your senior level people and your supervisors, you may need to offer a course that's a little bit more robust, things that have more case studies and things that are relative to their line of work. We do want to talk about insider trading because FINRA did highlight it again this year. Specifically, they said conduct employee training in regards to the use and handling of material non-public information. In addition to that, they also said that they want firms to focus on reviewing electronic communications. So insider trading, again, a really basic topic, but they do want to make sure that everyone's highlighting that this year, focusing on it and looking out for it, as it is important.
The next item that we're going to highlight is anti-money laundering training. This is one that we all know that we have to include every year in our training program. It can get a little bit mundane from time to time, but this year FINRA has highlighted that they're going to be focusing more on AML issues associated with institutional business. So that's going to be a focus for FINRA examiners in 2014. Although for all firms, regardless of if you're more institutional or retail focused, it's still important for you to make sure that you're developing a risk-based AML program for the year so that you can really assess the risk of any money laundering for your specific firm. The final item that we're going to highlight from the top list from FINRA for 2014 has to do with senior investors. My recommendation is that you incorporate this along with any suitability training that you happen to include in your training plan for the year. So if you are assigning suitability courses, you could easily include something that has a chapter or focuses on senior investors. Since there is a large number of investors that are approaching their retirement age, this is becoming more and more important when the FINRA examiners are traveling and examining your branches and locations. So we recommend that you are including very specific sales examples that will pertain to this senior demographic a little more closely. We also think that it's a good idea for you to reassess your firm's policies and procedures when you are communicating with anyone who may be in a situation of a diminished capacity. You definitely want to make sure that that's not a factor in their decision. That is going to wrap up just the Quest CE highlights from the 2014 FINRA hot topic list. However, that's not to say that that is everything that they will be looking for when they're visiting locations this year.
Good point. This was an 11-page release, so it did cover a little bit more than just compliance and compliance training. It did delve into things like information security, specifically how you're housing your data. So we do encourage everyone to take the time to read through the article. It's not that dense, it's not that wordy or complicated, and it will definitely help you outline your 2014 program and beyond the compliance training aspect. So MacKenzie, I want to thank you for joining me today and helping to dig into some of these topics.
Thanks.
And we'll see you again in a couple weeks for another episode of the Compliance Digest.